Welcome, old viewers and new viewers, to another episode of the Dancing Negotiator with Dr. Cheryl Okoli, DHA. This is the show where you learn all about conflict and resolution strategies, the what, the why, the when, the where, the who, the how, as it pertains to interpersonal values, systems, process, conflict in the workplace. Yes, I also utilize quality improvement strategies as pertinent to the topic at hand. I also use my 5 days of conflict resolution mnemonics or those of other experts in the field as it pertains to the theme of the month. I like to reserve the third Friday of each month for story time. Story time is an analysis of a movie, drama, event, documentary, what went wrong as it pertains to conflicts, and what could have been done better. And we use sometimes quality improvement strategies to rectify the situation. Last but not least, I reserve the last Friday of each month to have a guest or panel of guests who are either experts in the fields of conflict resolution or have something very relevant to share with all of us as it pertains to the theme of the month. Welcome to the month of May, the 5th month of the Gregorian calendar. Some people associate the number 5 with grace or favor. So this is me wishing that you have a gracious month full of favor in your workplace. So the theme of the month for the show is all about organization values and human rights. So if I were to ask you, what does the word value mean to you? Or when you think about value, what or values, what comes to mind? For some people, they're different thoughts. For some, it might be money. For others, it could be relationships. For some, it could be gems. So what comes to your mind when you think about values in the workplace? So like I said, some people, it could be interpersonal relationships. Some people might like loyalty, collaboration. Some might like diversity and inclusion, and the list goes on. So I decided to look up the different definitions of values in the world, values in general, by going to the English dictionary. Why I love my Oxford English Dictionary. So I'm going to list 4 different definitions of the concept of value, and then I'm going to align each definition with my example as it pertains to the workplace. Number 1, a value, how much something is worth. I think of expertise. Hasn't it been said that people sometimes are the biggest investments and we can say assets of a workplace? So when you talk about expertise, it could be that particular individual that has unique expertise in their field, be it knowledge, be it power, right? Number 2, a value can also be defined as how much something is worth compared with its price. So I think of a capital investment as an example. Specifically, I was thinking about an MRI machine. So it came to my knowledge a few months ago that the city of Kelowna, BC, happens to have one MRI machine. So if there are any philanthropists out there that can donate a brand new machine, I'm sure the city of Kelowna and surrounding areas will thank you. Now, some of you might ask, doesn't charity begin at home? What about Alberta? Alberta is in need of many capital investments. Well, if you know of any capital investment, I highly recommend contact your MP, Member of Parliament, as it pertains to that topic or issue. Number 3, a value can also be defined as the quality of being useful or important. I think of an example of a program or service that adds value, pun intended, to your organization. Last but not least, we have beliefs about what is right and wrong and what is important in life. As an example, we think about those ethical values, right? So you can think of integrity, loyalty, respect. With values, you could have tangible and intangible. You can also have financial values, right? So I want to add 2 additional values. But before I talk about those, when I think about organizational values, I usually think about values as part of the sub-arms of the strategic direction of an organization. So when you think about the strategic direction of an organization, you think of its mission, which means basically the purpose for which the business or service exists. Then you have the vision, which is basically future focus, what they aspire to be in the future. You have values, which are basically, I like to think of them as the pillars on which the organization stand for. And the last but not least, you have goals, which are tangible steps to achieving the mission of the organization. So Speaking about values, I mentioned there were two things I wanted to talk about, values that we could consider add-in. So one of the bones of contention, for instance, is when employees cite or say that some of the written values, be it in the strategic directions or in branding, do not align with what they say in practice. We don't want to be hypocritical, right? We need to walk the walk, basically practice what we preach. So I mentioned there are two values we can consider adding, and I'll wait till the end perhaps to talk about them. They're wellness and grace. You're like, that's weird. I've never heard of such a thing as values of an organization. Yeah. But guess what? Before the pandemic, did we not need people to be gracious, more gracious to each other? Did we not need people to really, when I say people, employers, to really put a very set and concerted effort in the wellness initiatives, modeling it themselves, right? So how much more so after the pandemic now in 2023, do we ever need to be gracious with one another? How bit, what I mean by that, between us as employees and colleagues, or be it across senior leadership boards to the employees, or be it to the patients or clients that we serve, right? More about that, the call to action step. Now, talking about values again. So I happened upon this organization. Well, before I happened upon the organization, I happened to use a product at my parents' home. It's a body wash product by Rempor family, and it's called, their product is a hydrating body wash specifically. But the reason why I share this is I am very particular about the choice of products that I use. I don't like anything with parabens or sulfates. It's not to say I never use them, but I kind of shy away from them. So you can imagine then this product got my attention when I saw it at my parents'. But not only is it the fact that it doesn't have parabens and sulfates, and by the way, some of you will be like, I keep hearing about parabens. What's so bad about parabens? Well, number one, you need to know what they are. So parabens, just in layman's terms, are basically chemicals that have extended shelf life of a product. So that's why sometimes for you women, your makeup seems to last forever. Maybe there are parabens extending the shelf life of it. Okay. Hence, natural products do not have those kind of chemicals, right? But what caught my eye, not only was the product good, but when I decided to read properly, it mentioned that the family, because it's a family-owned business, by the way, test their products on each other and not on animals. I was like, wow, that is amazing. Talk about a group of an entity that actually walk the walk. They just don't talk. They actually practice what they preach. Now, some might say, oh, that might cause some sort of human rights issues using your own family. So the family consent, they have any choice? I don't know. But I think it's quite admirable that they believe in not testing it on animals and probably not testing on humans. And here they are, testing on each other. Now, along the lines of human rights, I want to bring up a few things. Number one, a dream that I had. So this is very interesting. Today is May 5th, 2023. I had a dream on May 3rd. And it's very interesting that the content of the dreams reaffirmed the topic we're talking about today. So bear with me as I share the dream, please. So on May 5th, I woke up twice in the middle of the night, or you could say early morning, once at 3:33 a.m., the second time 7:46 a.m. So I'm going to relay the dreams that woke me up. So at 7:46 a.m. So basically, in the dream, I found myself in a darkened environment that looked like a subway. Then I saw a blurb of red. And then I heard the words or said the words, pass me not, and I woke up. Now, when I woke up, I found that very odd. Number one, what was the environment I was in? What was the blurb of red that I saw? And why on earth those words, pass me not? Now, historically, when I wake up with a certain phrase in mind, I've learned over the years to pay close attention. It's one of the ways my good Lord speaks to me. Sometimes it could be a verse or lyric from a song, either known to me or unknown to me, that might encourage me or be inspirational. So I decided to Google the Pass Me Not, because what came to mind was a song called Pass Me Not, or Gentle Savior. So here I'm listening to this song in waking life. Felt encouraged, but the weight of the whole dream didn't lift completely. Now, I paused it to share something else. Last week, I happened to subscribe to the Canada National Observer. I'm one of those that doesn't really watch the news. I take it in small doses. Number one, I don't even have a TV. And no, it's just because back in 2005, I was pursuing my graduate studies online and I didn't want any distractions because it was online, right? So I needed to be disciplined. Once I graduated in 2008, I thought I didn't even miss not having a TV. Hence the reason why I didn't have a TV, just for the record. But anyways, so I decided, very out of character for me, so to speak, to subscribe to the Canada National Observer. So this happened last week, and I chose not to read my emails, even though I got daily emails from them. I didn't. But on May 3rd, the same day I had that dream, I just decided to scroll down through my emails, and out of all the emails from them that I received, I happened upon one. I just titled, "The Violence Pandemic Continues. MPs declare MMIWG2S a national emergency." And that mnemonic stands for murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls and two-spirited people. So what caught my eye was the title and the fact, the choice of words, the violence pandemic continues. So this topic as a whole, I find it very disconcerting and sad. So when I clicked to open to read it, there was a warning that said the story contains distress and details. So I sort of braced myself as to what will be shared. So some of the things that were shared was one of the activists was talking about why can we not have an alert, now I'm paraphrasing, akin to an Amber Alert for when a child goes missing. Very good question, and I think very doable and plausible, right? So as I'm scrolling down at the very end, what caught my eyes, and I won't lie and confess, got the tears streaming down my face, was this quotation by someone by the name of Ellen Gabriel. She said, "Every single one of us knows what it is to breathe. Everyone knows what it means to lose a loved one. Why can't politicians and bureaucrats understand that Indigenous peoples are human beings as well?" That is a very poignant question. Now, I decided to read this article again when I had collected myself somehow. Decided to go back to the top, and my eyes happened upon something. May 5th, Red Dress Day. Now, yes, I am wearing red, and I'm wearing red in honor of Red Dress Day. So Red Dress Day commemorates the murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls and two-spirited people. Now let's go back to my dream. Why do you think I saw red? Why do you think I was in that kind of environment, dark in a subway? Why do you think those choice of words passed me not? I don't think it was a coincidence. I'll pause there for now and we'll talk about that later. Now, human rights. When we talk about human rights, there are different, before we talk about the human rights, I also want to mention back in 2019, I had a very strong urge to go to Winnipeg. Now, you might ask, why on earth Winnipeg? Well, first and foremost, Winnipeg is my birthplace. I left Winnipeg when I was 2.5 years old. And ever since then, I never thought or had a longing or yearning to ever go back. But in 2019, it was very strong. So everything worked out. I was able to go. And one of the places I wanted to visit was the Human Rights Museum. And it's the exhibition they had at the time was quite poignant in certain areas of places. But guess what? Guess what? One of the places I happened upon was an exhibit. And guess what it was all about? An exhibit with red dresses in honor of the murdered and missing Indigenous women. So I had taken, this is the exact picture from that time, 2019, when I was there. I believe it was 2019. Pardon me if it's not, but I believe it was 2019. So there, again, not an accident. I took the picture. And another thing I really should mention is I always plan what I will wear for each week for this show. And at the beginning of the week, the thought occurred to me to wear red, but I kind of dispelled that idea because it's like, oh, red is kind of loud. Why would I want to wear red? If I were to wear red, I'll wait till I have a guest. So I dispelled it. I pushed it away. But then I had this dream later on, and then I happened upon that Red Dress Day is today, May 5th. Now, human rights. What human rights exist in your province or country? I understand this is a global, no, I understand. I do know this is a global platform when women. So in Alberta, for instance, there are protected grounds for human rights, especially when it comes to employment. I redirect you to visit the Alberta Human Rights Act Open Government because Alberta is where I reside and have practiced for all these years, 20 years. So what are they? I'll list them. They pertain, so when we talk about the human rights, they're protected grounds when it comes to employment based on race, religious beliefs, color, gender, gender identity, gender expression, physical disability, mental disability, age, ancestry, place of origin, marital status, source of income, family status, or sexual orientation. So a few things popped out at me. Physical disability, mental disability in the context of when we talk about medical assistance in dying. I asked myself, how on earth do you reconcile those when it comes to that and human rights? Topic for another time, perhaps. Now, we're going to segue into cultural humility. When we talk about organizational values, I worked in an organization where one of the values written was cultural humility. But it's not just like it was written, it was actually practiced. And yes, this particular organization happened to serve mostly indigenous, not only, but mostly indigenous communities. Now, another shape and form you might see cultural humility listed as values could be perhaps under the words of diversity and inclusion. And with that, I really want to use expression cultural humility because let me explain what that means. Number one, it means understanding that in the workplace, there are people from diverse backgrounds, different cultures, being humble that you do not understand their culture and being willing to learn about their culture. So as you can see, I have a very different hairstyle that I normally have, right? That's done on purpose. Why? Because I want to provide a little bit of education at this point in time. What is the education? Chocolate-hued people like myself, regardless of my ancestry, descent, tend to have natural curly hair, very, very tight curls. But some of them feel uncomfortable or it's been ingrained in them that if they wore their natural hair, they will not be well accepted in the workplace, especially if they have aspirations to climb the corporate ladder. That will not be well received. They're told there's a certain image that aligns with an individual in the corporate environment or in the workplace in general. So, another thing for education, if I were to take out my hair in an afro, our hair grows like that, up and like that, defies gravity. I know it's very funny. And yes, there are different hairstyles that I've used over the years. And one thing I would like to share is when you see someone like myself or anyone else who has different hairstyles, they're not going through a transition. They may not have a mental issues as some people might think. Think of it as art. It's no different from you wearing different clothes and changing it up in different colors. The same is true. So here are the different faces, me, my natural hair, or with braids added to it. This particular picture is one of me with straightened hair, not with chemicals to straighten it, but using I think it was a blow head dryer of some sort that, yeah, it was on a hair salon, okay? And that's what you see over here, right? And with each hairstyle, I have to coordinate How will I live with glasses? Should I need glasses and so forth? But again, I shared that to say I just personally I like the variety. Okay. So I think of the indigenous populations too, those who have the braids, well, the men who have those braids, it means something culturally and spiritual as well, right? So you can imagine back in the day when they had to have it cut off to be assimilated or to look more into the greater society. Well, with cultural humility, we need to recognize that everyone looks like us. So to say that maybe some might say this look that I have should not be in the workplace, it's not professional. Might I suggest, challenge you, watching, listening, to redefine what the word professionalism means? Yes, we have code of ethics, we have policies, but what does that have anything to do with my hair? And when I say my, I'm talking about generic, okay, right? Along the same lines of if it's not deemed appropriate for the workplace, am I to lighten my skin? Again, I'm using myself as an example. Am I to lighten my skin or for others darken their skin to fit in to the mold, to the face, to the image of what our organization stands for? So if we are talking about true diversity and inclusion, it behooves people to understand the different people that make up the demographic of the organization. Don't you think so? I think so. So, on that note, we've talked a little bit about organization values, talked about cultural humility, talked about the Red Dress Day, which we'll talk about a little bit more as we talk about the call to action. And I do want to talk about the call to action right now. I would like you to do some sleuthing, if you will. Does your organization have values in terms of the sub-arm of the strategic direction? You'd be surprised, not all organizations or businesses have values. I actually happened upon somebody, business owner or co-founder, who does not believe in the concept of having values. Not to say he doesn't believe in values, but he meant written values as you would see in a strategic direction. Very interesting paradigm shift. I don't necessarily agree, but it was interesting to hear his perspective. And it was very persuasive from his angle, that's for sure. But I still think an organization should have values and not just have it, but walk and really model what it truly means. And there should be alignment. Now, I talked about wellness and grace earlier. So let's talk about wellness. I challenge you to reevaluate the values you currently have, given the high rate of burnout and risk for burnout. I think organizations should really incorporate wellness, not just as an initiative, that's good, but have it in bold where people make a concerted effort to meet it, however you define it. So, for example, I have two propositions in the academic setting and in the workplace setting. So, in the academic setting, why don't each specialty discipline have a credit course that includes wellness of some sort and could be of a choice of the learner? And then in the workplace setting, a wellness box should be ticked off as part of the requirement of your yearly performance appraisal. Wouldn't that be excellent? And that would be across all levels of an organization, board level, senior leadership, director level, which is senior leadership, frontlines, middle management, employees, regardless, everyone is required to have that. And employers, please, I plead with you, make the time available to the employees. What I mean by that, wellness initiatives or time to check up that box should not be deemed part of vacation. That's separate. Shouldn't be part of sick time either. That's separate. Okay. And yes, grace. Why not? Why not be different? I'll give you a quick example. So it's been interesting that I've had various scenarios whereby I need to be a little bit more gracious with people. And I was like, you know what? It would be nice to have like a pitcher or think of a garden trough water can. And it has the word grace on it. And I can visually imagine myself pouring grace on the person, feeding them grace. Nice visual, eh? Anyway, Canadian. I usually don't say that. I don't know where that came from, but that's interesting. Now back to the Red Dress Project. How can you, as an individual, as an organization, honor the Red Dress Project? Remember the words, pass me not? Please let us not pass them by. We need to do something about this. Imagine if that were your family member calling out from the grave, pass me not, pass us not. Contact your MP or whatever it is, innovative ideas we haven't thought of to address the situation. Finally, I'd like to invite you to go visit my website, SherylShalomEaglesWings.care is my email, and my website is ShalomEaglesWings.care because I do care for you. One of the services I offer for my consultation practices is strategic management. So if you do need help in crafting your strategic direction in rebranding based on the services you provide, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to help you with that. Now, on the side of wellness, I do have an initiative, a business called Renata.care, and it caters to healthcare providers. Now, think outside the box. If you provide services to a human being, be it to the physical, mental, spiritual, social, cultural domains, you're eligible. So Renata basically is a retreat, holistic retreat, educational, recreational, counseling, to provide tender loving care to the people who serve patients and clients. So I invite you to visit renata.care and you'll learn much more about that service. So on that note, I'd like to invite you to join me same time, same place for another episode of the Dancing Negotiator with Dr. Cheryl Okoli, DHA, live. But before you leave, I always like you to remember something. I want you to remember that you are needed in this world to be a solution. Be the best that you can and do not rob the world of a precious gem. You. Goodbye and have a splendid day.